Hello, YouTube. I knew I needed to make a video about this, but I wasn't sure how to go about it. It's such a huge topic that I hardly know where to begin. I'll start with my reaction. I was watching the Sargon of Akkad and Mr. Medicare streams last night, and as it became clearer and clearer that Trump would win and the Young Turks became more and more unraveled, I became more and more gleeful. I'm still in a good mood almost 24 hours later, and I'm not even a Trump supporter. This is how I explained it to a friend. Imagine there's a bunch of us and we're ordering pizza. There are only two types of pizza available. One is Hawaiian, which I don't particularly care for, and the other contains a topic I'm allergic to. Well, given those two choices, I'm going to choose Hawaiian, and I'm going to be very happy that that's the one that gets ordered. I think Trump is a terrible choice for the presidency, but I think Hillary is an even worse choice. This is because when it comes to politics, my biggest turnoff is corruption. Hillary represents the most blatantly corrupt candidate for president I've seen in a long time. Now, some might say Trump is corrupt too and point to some of the things that have happened in his businesses, but I look at political corruption as fundamentally different from any other form of corruption. When you're an elected official, in my mind, that means it's your job, first and foremost, to put the needs of the people ahead of your own needs. And corruption runs directly counter to that. So my first reaction was joy, and that was only compounded by the knowledge that I would soon get to revel in the reactions of people who believed the narrative that Trump is literally the second coming of Hitler. Normally I'd have sympathy for people this misguided, but their smugness and willful ignorance makes it really hard to feel sympathetic. So many people I know were absolutely sure that Trump would lose, and are now completely devastated that Trump has won. I want to address one of the reactions I've seen so far. This is that this election is proof that a lot of America hates women, or is racist, or is transphobic, or homophobic, or whatever, some other horrible thing. No, idiots. That's not what this election means. What this means is that you're projecting onto Trump voters the same values you yourself hold. If the things that Trump has said or done, or people have claimed he said and done, constitute sexism or racism or whatever to you, you assume everyone must agree with that conclusion. It doesn't occur to you that people might not agree that Trump is a sexist or a racist or a Nazi. So to you, anyone voting for Trump is actively supporting someone who has those negative traits. And on top of that, you're assuming that those traits are the most important factor in everyone's voting decision. So when you see someone claiming that half the country is sexist, what they're really saying is that they base their voting decision first and foremost on whether or not the candidate is sexist. The candidate's policies, their qualifications, their charisma, none of that matters as much as whether or not they're sexist or racist or transphobe or whatever. For these people, their candidate must be morally pure by their standards to get their vote. Well, I've got news for these people. Trump voters have other priorities. Trump voters care about things like immigration reform, about getting illegal immigrants out of the country, about stopping the flow of jobs out of the country and into Mexico and China, about Islamic terrorism, about toppling the establishment and ending cronyism and corruption in politics. Now, Trump may not be able to deliver on any or all of those issues, but the fact is, he was pretty much the only one even addressing them. Had the Democrats treated him as a serious threat and taken on some of his issues just as Hillary took on some of Bernie's policies, they could have won this thing. Instead, they shit all over anyone who was considering voting for Trump, and fueled what was one of the most hate-filled, divisive elections ever. People like to blame Trump for that, and he certainly played his part, but he was not the one labeling all of Hillary's supporters as anything, let alone racist and sexist. To me, that was the biggest mistake made by Hillary and the media that supported her. Instead of focusing their attacks on Trump and his policies and on trying to actually convince his supporters to switch sides, they attacked his supporters, and all that did was drive more people towards Trump. This is because undecided people probably knew Trump supporters and realized that they're not actually horrible people. And once you see through one media lie, it, as Alex Jones would yell really loudly, breaks the conditioning. Suddenly, all the media's lies become transparent and their bias becomes obvious. This was a loss not just for Hillary Clinton, but for the Democrat establishment as a whole. I was saying for years leading up to this election that the Republicans were doomed as far as the presidency was concerned. Hillary was the obvious choice to be president next, and the Republicans were refusing to learn from the past and were probably just going to trot out the next Mitt Romney clone. By this I mean essentially Mike Pence, a middle-aged white man with weak charisma with at least one batshit crazy religious belief. And such a person stands almost no chance of convincing the majority of people to vote for them. Luckily for the Republicans, despite their best efforts, Trump saved them from themselves. The Democrats, on the other hand, were not saved from themselves. Had they been willing to accept Bernie as their candidate, they, in my opinion, would have won in a landslide. But since the Democratic Party is not actually left-wing, they couldn't have an actual socialist as their candidate. Yeah, you heard me. The Democrats are a right-wing party. There's no major left-wing party in the US. There's a right-wing party that speaks to a traditional right-wing base, and there's a right-wing party that pretends to be left-wing. At the end of the day, they're both corporate capitalist parties, though. But now we have President Trump, and I have to say, I don't know what will happen next. The Republicans have the House and the Senate, but you have to remember the Republicans didn't want Trump. He's an outsider. He's not a politician, and if it's up to them, the Republicans probably don't want to work with him. My suspicion is that they will do what they can to block him without making it look like they're doing it. But if Trump can actually put any of his plans in place, it could be pretty cool. He'll be forced to hire actual legal Americans, and will have to pay them a decent wage. This alone should improve employment numbers. More importantly, though, a wall would make it much harder for illegal drugs to enter the country. Combine that with widespread marijuana legalization, and suddenly gangs in inner cities lose their main source of income. Crime goes down, inner city fathers aren't jailed anymore for minor drug offenses, children aren't forced to resort to gang membership and crime. So with this one act, Trump could potentially lower the unemployment rate, lower the crime rate, and clean up the inner cities, all of which are things he based his campaign on. Sounds pretty good, right? So why are people protesting in the streets? Well, some people believe hook, line, and sinker the narrative pushed by the pro-Hillary media that Trump is literally Hitler, and that his election means non-white, non-male people are in actual danger. I have friends on Facebook literally talking as though there's a real chance of alt-right gangs roaming around attacking people. People are scared, and people are angry that someone as bad as Hitler could actually win the election. So some of these people combine those emotions with a sense of entitlement so strong that they think it's okay to override the results of a democratic election just because they don't like the results. Well, to that I say, fuck off. If you don't like the election results, complain as much as you want, and work towards nominating a better candidate next time. But don't think that you have the right to change the election results just because your side lost. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about the election at this point. I may think of other things later. I've probably missed a thing or two, and maybe I'll make a follow-up video. Let me know if you have any questions, or you just want to know my opinion on anything related to the election. But until next time, I'm Positive Improvement, and I wish you all the best.